Whitney Houston was odd, different, and marvelous. She was all those things because there's never been anyone like her before or after her. From time to time, the world has often sent a special person with talent so pure it's hard to explain. The remarkability of them being a human just doesn't make sense. Whitney had a voice of what real angels must sound like. She used her talents to change and make a moment in history. The sad part of Whitney's story is Whitney's story. It's what was behind closed doors that eventually one was left open for the world to see. And Whitney's life was in the open for everyone to judge and see. Drugs had taken Whitney at critical moments in her life to not give her back the time of health that they had taken. She should still be here with us, even if she was just a little old lady enjoying her life. But her heart was damaged, and life had come to an end for her. This is the death of Whitney Houston.
Delightful. Whitney Houston.
Sang. You said you were saying. I said, they right.
Well, I've been in this business for about 10 years now. I started at 12. So it's not pretty, new. It's pretty much old.
And it is God's gift, but it must be worked with. Everything. A runner is a runner because he runs and he practices it. A swimmer is a good swimmer because they practice at it.
The music world is in shock this morning following the death of singer Whitney Houston. The iconic singer was found dead in a Beverly Hills hotel room yesterday afternoon on the eve of the music industry's biggest award show, the Grammys.
Many people may not know, but Whitney Houston was only 48 years old when she died. The last moments and images of Whitney show a life that wasn't what it looked like at the beginning of her career, where she held the fame and fortune of the 80s and the 90s. At the end of Whitney's life, she was fully falling down a hill that she couldn't catch herself to stop. Money wasn't what it was, family and friends hard to trust, drug abuse and active drug taking had completely taken over, and the media knew it. She wasn't even trying to hide it at that point. She just wanted everybody to leave her alone. Her last moments in February of 2012, she's in Beverly Hills, staying at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. In 1991, Whitney made history and a moment that would stick around to be one of the biggest and most beautiful events of the 90s that people find remarkable. She would arrive at Super Bowl 25 that year. She would give what is considered to be the best Star-Spangled Banner of all time. At the time, what people didn't know, Whitney was singing to a dead mic. But even when they found out, people still didn't care because the moment was so good and Whitney captured it in all the right moments. And for decades to come, it changed how people viewed music at the Super Bowl and was the genesis of what was coming for the next decades at the Super Bowl. The now musical acts were begging to be a part of the Super Bowl, and the halftime shows that now we know to be such a spectacle all started from this one moment with Whitney. Whitney's fame changed again that night when she sang at the Super Bowl in Florida in 1991. She went from being very famous to being a household name for the next 2 decades, with all eyes on her, having every opportunity thrown at her even more. She went from being the little girl that could sing in the 80s with a big voice to being the woman with a beautiful voice of amazing talents that people knew would bring down the house. And for that, we saw her thrive in the 90s with a career. You have to understand that Whitney was many things at one point in her life. An artist, a wife, a mother. It seems that Whitney was always running from her career that led her to bad habits of hiding and drug abuse. But it seems that she was happiest when she was a mother. In 2010, Whitney would have her last run of shows, starting in Moscow and then ending in England. A huge European tour. No shows were played in America. Whitney's public outlook wasn't the best at the time, and she was being ridiculed on TV weekly. People knew that Whitney was out of control, and things weren't what they were. Many of the shows were said to be not the best, and even a lot of fans from multiple concerts asked for their money back. So much so that it made headlines in the news. Many of the shows were canceled, or started late, or moved to other dates that never even happened. The tour itself was said to be a nightmare for people that were involved in it, from the whispers that came out of the circle of it. When we dip into Whitney's last year alive, her career is on a downslide. She's living off past hits and her name, but nonetheless, she's still Whitney Houston. She had just wrapped up filming a movie and now looking into writing new music. But even though she was on a path of greener grass, Problems were still following her. She's now divorced from her husband, Bobby Brown, but it's no secret that Whitney is still very much actively using drugs. She swears up and down that she's not in interviews. Someone that was always around in Whitney's life that we saw in the background, on the red carpets, walking with Whitney, someone who always spoke highly of her, and one of the best for her, is the one person that cared for her the most. It was Whitney's mother. Whitney's mother herself had her own moment in the world, in a different time in history, and filled the airwaves with people like Elvis Presley. But this was the person that stood by Whitney her whole life, even till the end. People could see that Whitney was not the performer she was once upon a time. Her life had turned into a cliche of fame and drugs controlling her life. But her mother did what mothers do. She tried her hardest to help Whitney. In February of 2012, just days before the Grammys were to take place, Whitney was expected to attend the pre-Grammy party, which is a huge event in the city. She had been to this event many times before. This is still in the same moment of Whitney on her comeback, off the tour and starting to make appearances at high-profile places. On February 7th, Whitney went to record her last track at a studio in North Hollywood. It would be the last time she was ever in a recording studio and recorded her vocals. February 9th is the last day that we see Whitney, and it's the day that's seen by the world. It's a strong glimpse into what was coming in the next 2 days. Whitney is now in her last hours of life and now staying at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. This is where Whitney is supposed to perform at the pre-Grammy party that she's attending. She is now staying in her room 434, now known as Whitney's room. The number has been stripped from the wall, making it unknown to people. That day, Whitney is also having to attend rehearsals. When she walks into rehearsal that day, the band wasn't expecting her so early. They knew Whitney was a night owl, but when she walked in, she was soaking wet. She was asked, "Whitney, what's wrong? Why are you so soaking wet?" She says that she had been swimming, trying to get her lungs back. "I'm getting in shape. It's my comeback." But the thin string of life that Whitney has left is about to break. That night, Whitney, along with her daughter, they head out to the town, the nightlife. It starts off simple, but through other means of use of drugs and heavy drinking, paparazzi are now on Whitney's every movement. She would end up at a nightclub. Many things would escalate that night, singing, dancing, and even rumors of a fight that Whitney got into. The problem with this night is that Whitney has been claiming that she's sober from everything, but it has proven not to be true. It's sad in many different ways because this is the last moment we see Whitney before she holds herself up in her hotel room before her death. Pictures are taken that are sold for unbelievable prices by the morning to many different news stations to be released in magazines the following day. It's obvious in the pictures that Whitney is on more than just drinking. It's still to this day unknown how many pictures were taken that night of the moment, but by the morning, the world is talking about Whitney Houston again and her substance abuse out in the open. You see, this was bad in many ways for Whitney. Before this night, she was trying to sell herself to the public once again, preparing for a new album, a movie that had been made, that she was in, an upcoming tour, and in talks to sign a contract to be a judge on X Factor. Her last comeback had been a failure due to her substance abuses, so by the morning, Whitney's managers, publicists, were in disarray of the situation because how were they going to sell a tour, albums, the sobriety that Whitney had told the world about? The night ends late, and Whitney is never seen alive again by the public, and the next part of her story begins. The details of what we know about Whitney's last hours alive are vague and still kept secret with her inner circle today. When Whitney arrives back to her room that night, she sleeps late into the next day. She wakes up to see that the night before has taken a terrible look on her comeback. We do know that night, February 10th, Whitney would go down to the hotel bar to join some friends, having drinks into the night. But on February 11th, Whitney's last day, is when elements would start to unfold. Whitney's small circle checks in on her around noon to make sure she's getting ready for the party she's attending later that night and where she's also performing. The last contact with Whitney would happen at 3:15 p.m. that day. 2 phone calls happened that day. One around noon, Whitney would talk to a friend on the phone, making sure they were going to sit together that night at the party. And then the last phone call comes at the last hour of Whitney's life. It would be with Whitney's mother, They would talk on the phone, and Whitney's mother would say that she sounded normal. Everything was fine. But after the phone is hung up, it happens. Whitney falls asleep in the tub. Whitney's security is calling her, trying to get in touch with her, knocking at the door, calling the room. Hotel security eventually gets them into Whitney's room. It's now 3:43 p.m. When they walk into Whitney's room, it's a mess, and they find her unresponsive in the tub. She was under the water, nude. They rip her out of the tub and start to perform CPR on her. A large amount of police were already at the hotel because of the event that night, and in no time, detectives are on the scene while Whitney's still in the hotel. They pull Whitney out of the tub, but it's too late. She is pronounced dead at 3:55 p.m. on February 11th. Whitney's body is taken out of the hotel, and the news of it is spreading faster than the speed of sound. Paparazzi are there. As detectives are surrounding the hotel, celebrities are now arriving for the event that night that's taking place. Whitney's room is covered in evidence. When her body is taken to the morgue, an autopsy is done. It tells what happened to Whitney in that small amount of time that took place. In Whitney's room, there was beer, champagne, pills of all sorts, a spoon with crystal-like substance in it, rolling papers, a white powdered substance on the bathroom counter close to Whitney's body. All of this was in the report, and Whitney had most of these elements in her system at the time of her death. But the autopsy would bring back that Whitney simply went unconscious, falling asleep, and drowned in the tub. Water was found in her lungs. She was still breathing when she went under. It's a sad situation that Whitney's story had to end like this. But demons that had found her long ago in her younger life, they followed her. She couldn't shake them. Elements that she had found to release her tension and stress of life. When we look back on the younger Whitney Houston, we see a life untouched or corrupted by things of the world. Someone hungry and passionate for more. It's just sad that evil elements of the world had to interrupt Whitney's life, and they eventually took her too soon. Long live the artist and memory of Whitney Houston, once in a generation person.